Hello, I'm Julianne with Healthy Living with Julianne. Welcome to my health series. Very excited to be bringing to you another fantastic practitioner today. And our focus is key steps to maintaining muscle mass as we age. Susan Brady brings a rich diversity of experience and knowledge to the healthcare profession. She's been a licensed physical therapist for over 30 years, is a doctor of integrative medicine, and a nutrition consultant. She specializes in helping women with osteoporosis taking a holistic approach, but she also helps people of any age maintain vitality and health. And I met her initially when she was first coordinating the Healthy Aging Summit. And I talked about boosting your immunity, which is, of course, the focus of our series, how to boost your immunity during this health crisis. So welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Julianne, so much for having me. I appreciate you asking me to be on this health series with you, and I'm really excited to be speaking with you today.
Oh, thank you so much. Susan just brings a wealth of information. So today, we're going to focus, as I said, on maintaining muscle mass as we age. We're all staying at home more during this pandemic. We're off our routines. Our gyms are closed. So those of us who were in a routine are now grappling with how to get back on track. And then a lot of people have kids at home, elderly people that may be living with them, and so forth. So I'm really excited. I think this is a really timely topic, and wanted to start off with how does muscle mass affect you in terms of your health and how you age, and
Yeah.
as you age.
You know, it's interesting you're talking about staying home and the difficulty staying active, but the truth is our muscles don't take a vacation. And so we have to continue to exercise when we're at home, sitting a little bit more, because we will continue to lose muscle mass if we do not actively work to maintain it. And, you know, Julianne, believe it or not, we actually start to lose muscle mass around 40 years old. And on average, a person between the ages of 40 and 60, they're going to gain a pound of fat every year and lose a half a pound of muscle every year. So by the time someone's 70 years old, if you're not actively exercising and doing your best to maintain your muscle mass, you could lose 50% of your muscle mass. It could just vanish.
Yeah.
And I think people often take their muscles for granted and how important they are, not just for movement, helping us get up and down from a chair or carrying things or climbing stairs, but muscle mass actually affects our health in so many different ways. And a loss of muscle mass as we age can actually put us at greater risk for several diseases. And I'd say the number one is obesity. The less muscle mass means you have what we call a lower metabolic rate. And the metabolic rate is the amount of calories you burn every day while you're at rest, right? So the more muscle you have, the more calories you are going to burn, because muscle burns more calories than fat, okay? So, you know, the less muscle you have, the more fat accumulation you're going to get, and the greater your risk of obesity is. And we know that obesity is a major contributing factor to so many chronic diseases that we see in our society, such as systemic inflammation, cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver. And I think, Julianne, you and I can agree how systemic inflammation probably is the root cause of all disease. And when you have this low-lying inflammation in the body, it just starts to break down your tissues all the time. And that, you know, especially that abdominal fat, it produces something called inflammatory cytokines. And these cytokines produce inflammation. So the more abdominal fat we have, the greater the risk of having the systemic inflammation. And then muscle is also really important to clear glucose or blood sugar or sugar from the blood and help us to maintain healthy blood sugars. So we need healthy blood sugars in order to reduce the risk of diabetes. And again, diabetes can be associated with so many really pretty detrimental things that can happen, eyesight, loss of circulation to our, our smaller capillaries, like in our feet and our fingers, which can then end up leading to muscle amputations. So again, your muscles actually take the sugar from the bloodstream and use it, right? So the more muscle mass you have, the better your sensitivity to bringing that sugar out of the bloodstream and the lower risk of developing diabetes. So again, muscle mass is going to help us maintain our blood sugars as well. And in older people, the more muscle mass you have, the better they're going to recover from illness and disease. And this is kind of critical because when you are sick and you have an illness or disease, it increases the body's need for protein in order for it to heal. And oftentimes the protein needs to heal are far beyond what we can get from our diet. So then what would happen is the body starts to break down muscle to meet the increased protein requirements. So people with less muscle mass are going to have a harder time meeting the protein demands caused by illness. And what we know also is that a deficiency of muscle mass prior to an illness makes recovery back to normal function harder. So, and then the other thing we know is that loss of muscle mass, particularly in cancer patients, often due to treatments, is known to be detrimental to their actual survival from the cancer. So again, muscle mass really important for anyone that's going to go through a disease or an illness as we age. So another great reason why we need to maintain muscle mass. And then absolutely, as an osteoporosis specialist, it's been shown greater muscle mass is a consistent predictor of better bone health, both in men and in women. And when you're exercising your muscles, a couple of things that it does is it actually creates a force on the bone, right? So when you contract that muscle contracts, putting a force on the bone, and that force initiates or stimulates the bone to remodel, right, and get stronger. But what's also cool is the other thing that a muscle does when it contracts is it produces a hormone called irisin. And we don't know everything about irisin at this time, but one of the things that we do know is that this hormone talks directly to the bone and tells the bone to turn over and get stronger. So again, you're contracting this muscle, it's pulling on the bone, stimulating bone turnover, but it's also producing this hormone called irisin, which is going to that bone and saying, knock, knock, turn over, get stronger. So that's kind of cool. So it really tells you how intricately the bone and the muscle work together. And then of course, the less muscle mass we have, that can lead to just people being frail, decrease in mobility, increased risk of fractures and falls. And in fact, people with decreased muscle mass have over twice the risk of falling and breaking a bone. And, hip fractures are the most serious consequences of falling because they're actually correlated with a higher risk of mortality for up to 10 years after a fracture. So if you fall and you fracture your hip, you're at an increased risk of mortality for up to 10 years. So those are just a couple really, really important reasons as to why we need to maintain our muscle mass as we age.
Well, these are really good points, Susan, especially for those of us who are at home and starting to lose a little bit of focus. With our gyms closed, we may be going for walks and so forth, but we really need to focus on reducing muscle mass. What steps can we take to prevent the loss of muscle mass and stay strong and stay healthy during this crisis in particular?
There's a lot of steps we can take. And what I'm hearing from so many of my patients right now is, I'm trying to get out and go for a 30-minute walk. But Julianne, walking for 30 minutes a day is not enough. You have to be doing some kind of resistance training, whether it's, body weight exercises, so planks, um, squats, push-ups. Those are type of body weight exercises, or hand weights. And a lot of people these days have hand weights that they can do, or the resistance bands. You have to do something that actually works the muscles. Now, if you wanted to go out and walk and go up and down hills, or perhaps there's a high school in your area where you can go and run up and down the stadium steps, those types of things would help to build muscles, at least in your legs. But if you're just going out and walking every day, what are you doing for your upper body? What are you doing for your core? You're really not, doing the resistance exercises that are needed to maintain muscle mass in the upper body and the core. And I think something that people really have to understand is that you constantly need to be doing something that challenges your muscles. And aerobic exercise, like walking, certainly good for our heart, certainly good for our cardiovascular system. It's actually very good for our brain as well. But it doesn't really do a lot for muscle mass in itself. And the body constantly needs to be challenged for it to stay strong. So if you were going to go ahead and, let's say, lift a 5-pound dumbbell, okay, and you do this every day for 10 pounds, well, guess what? That muscle is going to be big enough and strong enough to lift that 5-pound dumbbell and nothing more, because our body is a master at accommodating to exercise. So it's going to get just strong enough to lift that dumbbell, but it's not going to get any stronger. So you're constantly having to change things up, make things more challenging for the body to respond. And I like to call it muscle confusion, because again, if you do the same thing every single day, the body's just like, oh, I know what this exercise is. And it doesn't actually have to, it doesn't take any more energy for the body to perform that exercise, because it knows what it's doing. It knows how to do it. It's like, great, this is easy, fine. But when you're doing this one day and this the other day and something else, the body's like, I don't know what I'm doing today. So it's actually confused, and it actually has to work harder. And that's when we see bigger gains and in terms of muscle resistance. So one thing that you always have to do is you've got to challenge your muscles, and you've got to constantly be causing confusion in the muscles, so that the body doesn't get used to doing the same thing every single day. And that's literally the reason why training works, right? Because the body accommodates to running that mile. So then when you go out and run a mile in a race, the body says, oh, I know how to do this, great. And that's how you actually train. But if you're trying to run that mile and you never run more than a quarter mile, then what have you trained your body to do? Only run a quarter mile. That's not going to translate to running a mile. So you've constantly got to change it up. And then the other thing that I'm a really big fan of is what we call functional exercise. Functional exercises. And functional exercises train your muscles to work together and mimic movements of daily activities, such as carrying groceries, squatting down to pick something up off the ground, getting in and out of a car, getting on and up and down from a chair. And all of these movements require the many, many different muscles to work together and to work in coordination. So let's say when you do a squat, yes, you're working the muscles of the legs, but in order to stabilize that squat, you're also having to work the core muscles, right? The glutes, the abdominals, as well as the leg muscles. So, and then if you add like a dumbbell to that squat, now you're incorporating the arm muscles as well. So the other great thing I love about functional exercises, especially for the aging population, is that it also incorporates balance and coordination. Okay, because think about it, if we have to bend over and pick something up off the ground, we also have to balance our body so we don't fall. So if you're doing squats, it's also requiring you to coordinate that activity and balance while you're doing it. So it helps to improve balance too. So again, I'm a big fan of these functional exercises. I do a lot, I do a lot with people, training them how to do these functional exercises. And then in terms of the aerobics, one of the things that I'm also feel very strongly about is doing more interval training. And there's a new name for it, high intensity interval training. I've been doing interval training all my life, and I think it's funny how all of a sudden we have new names for it, like it's something different. But I often will get my clients to, especially if my clients are walkers, to do what I call mailbox sprints. So after like a 5-minute warm up, they walk really, really hard and fast between two mailboxes, and then they just cruise between two mailboxes, and they work really, really hard between two mailboxes, and they just cruise between mailboxes. And there's a lot of great research out there supporting that this type of interval training is very, very effective for our metabolism. So it helps to speed up our metabolism a little bit. And again, if you just walk in the same pace for 20 minutes, you're not really challenging the body. But if you're doing this interval training, then you are challenging the body again. So I'm a big fan of the interval training too. So yeah, so I think again, when we're here at home, just doing simple things. If you can't get outside, go up and down the steps. Run up and down your steps a couple times. Every time you go to the bathroom, come back and stand up and sit down from your chair. That is the basis of a squat. So if you've never exercised before and you're looking, oh, I can't do a squat, stand up and sit down from your chair 20 times. Now that, you're starting to do a squat, and then you can easily increase from there. And so finding things to do around the house. In the kitchen, okay, you can use that counter and you can do push-ups on the counter. So, a lot of us can't get down on the floor. Maybe we've got bad knees or bad hips, and it's just uncomfortable to get down on the floor, but you can do a push-up on a squat. You can do a plank, on a counter. You can do a plank on the counter. You just need to be creative, and you just need to keep moving. And one of the things I love to do with my family when we're making dinner and waiting for a pot to boil, we're dancing around, we're putting on music. My daughter and I are big Taylor Swift fans, and we put on her song and we dance. We've got the microphone and we're just going at it. So movement, movement, movement. If you just really concentrate on moving more during the day, that's critical too. What you can't do is just sit in front of your computer or a television set. That is going to lead to a loss of muscle mass.
These are excellent suggestions, Susan. I love your concept of muscle confusion. That helps me a lot. And that may help other people, where you kind of think, I'm in a routine, I'm doing my upper body, I'm doing my lower body. Oh my gosh, I still need to challenge myself, even though I'm not in the gym. Mm-hmm. The personal trainer is not nearby. I'm not necessarily challenging myself because I'm so distracted by just getting through the day during this crisis. I've heard you say before, Susan, that it's important to schedule exercise in our daily lives.
Yes, I'm a huge fan of scheduling exercise. And, I put it in my schedule every single day. I would say, all honesty, I don't get it in every day, but I would say 5 out of 7 days it's in there. And I look at that exercise session, that 1 hour that I block off, as if it was a meeting with my boss. I would never, ever schedule something over my meeting with my boss. I would do everything in my power to make sure that meeting happens. And you have to think about it as the same thing with exercise. It has to be a priority in your life, and you have to schedule it, and you just have to say, from 9 to 10 every single morning, that is when I'm going to exercise. And I think the other thing that what the research shows, and Julianne, I'm big into my research, is people that exercise in the morning tend to maintain their exercise routine, long term, and more consistently than people who exercise in the late afternoons or evenings, because so many things can happen during the day. And by the time the evening comes around, you're exhausted, you're hungry, you're this, you're that. And there are a lot of reasons why you shouldn't exercise at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But there are very few reasons why you shouldn't exercise, at 6, 7, 8 in the morning. So again, what I see is the people that exercise in the mornings and schedule it and don't let anything get in the way of that exercise sessions are the ones that are more consistent and successful. Now, having said that, you wake up in the morning, you don't feel well, then you shouldn't exercise, because when we're sick, our body needs to take all that energy to heal itself. And if we're expending energy doing a rigorous exercise routine, that's energy the body doesn't have to heal. So yes, schedule it. And if at all possible, and I know for some people it's not possible, but if at all possible, mornings do tend to be better than trying to schedule in the afternoon.
Well, these have been terrific suggestions, Susan. Cross training, not
Yes.
just doing one exercise, but cross training, walking, steps, bands. For those of you, I told my mom about this when I was talking with Susan. She said, I'm going to Dick's Sporting Goods tomorrow and I'm buying my bands, and she's 87.
Yeah.
So you can get out there, you're setting up a little bit of a home gym perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to use dumbbells. If you have some injuries or if you're older, you can use bands. But if you're an intermediate to advanced athlete, like Susan said, get out there and start doing the weights. And well, thank you, Susan. This has been wonderful. So before we close out and I get your contact information, did you want to tell us a little bit about the Healthy Aging Summit and what is your mission there?
Yeah. So the Healthy Aging Summit, the reason why I put it together is because, in my opinion, and for many, many reasons, I believe that aging is a gift. But we want to age with vitality and in good health so we can continue to do the things we love at any age. None of us want to be in a wheelchair and be sick and constantly be going to doctor's offices. And that is possible. It's possible to age with vitality and good health if you start to take care of yourself. And there's a lot of different things that we can do to help that. And so what I've done with the Healthy Aging Summit, I've brought together 50 different, well, they're not all practitioners. I mean, they're people from all walks of life, experts that are going to talk about different aspects of healthy aging. And it's really cool. I mean, I've got this very amazing sexologist and very flamboyant about how to have the best sex out of, after 50. And of course, Julianne, you're talking about the immune system. And I have someone talking about financial planning and somebody talking about, all of the different conditions, heart disease and diabetes and all of these different conditions. And then I also have somebody, a holistic veterinarian, who talks about how to help our animals age healthy, because our animals do so much for us and keep our spirits high and help us age in good well-being. And so she just talks about how we can do the same for our animals. So just 50 different topics. And what's also cool is me being a more integrative practitioner. All of these people come from a more integrative base as well. So when you talk to somebody about neurologic diseases, he talks about nutrients and exercise and different, more holistic approaches to treating these things. So I'm really excited. It launches June 4th. And so it's going to be a lot of fun and just a wealth of information.
Well, that is wonderful, Susan. Yes, the Healthy Aging Summit is just a huge resource for people who over 40 years old. I would say everybody can benefit, but particularly those of us over 40. So I hope you check in. So Susan, tell us how we can connect with you for your practice and how we can sign up for the Healthy Aging Summit.
So if you want to connect to me, my business name is Nurtured Bones, and you can just find me nurturedbones.com, or you can just email me susan@nurturedbones.com. And right now during this pandemic, I have slashed my prices on a lot of my personal consults. So for instance, if anybody is interested in, you know, mixing up their exercise session, starting a new exercise session, I'm providing a 30-minute personal exercise review, and that can be done virtually over Zoom, or we can do it over the phone. So, you know, we go through your current exercise program. I give you feedback and suggestions, how to change things up, you know, exercises that may be more effective for your specific condition. So if you're just starting out with exercise, or even if you're seasoned in exercise, you know, we talk about the routine and we put together a new routine for you. So there are a lot of different things that I can help you with, even if you're at home right now.
Excellent, Susan. Thank you so much. I hope you connect with Susan Brady. Thank you so much. It's been a wealth of information. I'm inspired. I hope you are too. Thanks. Have a great day, and boost your immune system. Take some serious steps so that you can beat this health virus and live a healthy life. Stay healthy, stay well, enjoy the journey.